Welcome to the Leadership and Love podcast. We will cover leadership, mindset, personal development, and sales and marketing. You will experience thought-provoking conversations with both nationally and internationally recognized leaders. Our goal is to inspire you and deliver actionable items that you can implement that are going to help you accelerate your growth. Get ready to discover the magic and the power when you lead with love. Mayday, mayday, we're going down. Bill Nurbin made that radio call as calmly as if he was ordering breakfast on a Sunday morning. We were at 700 feet in a Huey helicopter loaded with troops and equipment going into a landing zone, an LZ, and we were heavy and we were slow because we were slowing down to land. And at that point, we were about 700 feet, about the height of a 70-story building. We lost an engine and we were about to crash, and he made that call. Mayday, mayday, we're going down. I was the crew chief and door gunner on that mission, on that flight, and I got the passengers in the crash position. I had briefed them earlier that morning in the event that we were going to have some sort of an emergency, all the things they were supposed to do. And I had taught them how to get into the crash position and how to bend over and hold on to the calves or their ankles. Bill Nurbin assessed the situation, and we had been flying over a very wooded area. And so he was looking for a place to land. We both found a spot that was a clearing in the trees. And so at this point, I had gone through my emergency procedures with the passengers in the back. He was going through his emergency procedures as the pilot. I opened the right side cargo door. One of my responsibilities as a crew chief, pilot in a helicopter in the Hueys, cannot see directly below him. So one of my responsibilities was to call our altitude as we were going into the landing zone. Now, helicopters, unlike an airplane has the good fortune it can put its nose down and force airflow over the wings, and that'll give it lift, so it can glide in even under no power. It may be a little bit of a faster than they'd like, but they still have the ability to stay in the air. A helicopter, on the other hand, is like a Coke machine that's been pushed off the back of a delivery truck. You're just falling out of the sky. One of the things that a helicopter has is a thing called auto rotation. At the very bottom, before the helicopter crashes, you do something called pulling up on the collective. The collective is a lever next to the pilot seat that gives the main rotor pitch. So at that point, whatever power you have left, you pull the collective that gives you pitch, and it cushions the crash, literally the crash. In this particular case, what Bill Nurbin and I did, we had found the landing zone and we were headed into it, and I was calling him through the altitudes, 500 feet, 400 feet, 300 feet. And what my point I want to make to this is, obviously, I live to tell the tale, otherwise I wouldn't be here sharing this with you. But one of the things I want you to know is that this event, both Bill Nurbin and I had thought about the what ifs prior to this event. So, welcome back to another episode of Leadership and Love. Today I want to talk about how to be able to control you as a leader, how to lead yourself, and how to be able to choose the best solution to be your best self, to save yourself from embarrassment or those silly things and sometimes stupid things that we say and do to and for and in front of other people. So what I'd like to share with you is a very powerful formula. It's called E+R equals O. E stands for the event, R stands for your response, and the O stands for the outcome. One of the things I do when people bring me into organizations and other places to speak, events, associations, those kinds of things, one of the things I do when I share this, I'll find somebody in the audience, and I'll pick a guy, for example, and I'll ask him, if I give you, let's call him Bob, I'm going to give you $1,000. And then I tell the audience, Bob calls all his friends up and says, hey, I got $1,000. Let's go out partying tonight. And Bob buys everybody dinner and drinks and all that stuff. Tomorrow, Bob wakes up and he's hungover and the $1,000 is gone. That's the event was I gave him $1,000. Same event. I give Bob $1,000. He calls up his investment guy. And his investment guy and tells him, I'd like to buy a mutual fund. Now Bob wakes up tomorrow. His net worth has gone up $1,000. It was exactly the same event. Bob got $1,000. His response, either taking everybody out partying or investing the money, changes the outcome. That one's pretty easy to see. The next one I use is I'll pick a female, and I'll say, let's call her Sue. I'll say, Sue, I've been all over the world, known lots and lots of people. You've got to be one of the dumbest people I've ever met. And Sue can say to herself, oh my God, Louie doesn't even know me. How did he figure it out so fast? What's going to happen to her self-esteem? Self-esteem is going to go down. Same event. I tell Sue, Sue, I've been all over the world, coached hundreds of people, spoken in front of thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people. You have to be one of the dumbest people I've ever met. Sue says, Louie doesn't know me that well. I'm happily married. I've got a good job, and I'm raising some good kids. At a minimum, her self-esteem is going to stay the same. Same event. I tell Susie, I've been all over the world. You have to be one of the dumbest people I've ever crossed paths with. And Susie says to herself, you know what? Of all the women here, Louie's picked me. I think Louie likes me. I think Louie's flirting with me. Now, usually that'll get a laugh out of the audience, but what I share then is what's going to happen to her self-esteem. It's going to go up. But the event was the same. In all three of those scenarios, the event was the same. What mattered was what Susie said to Susie when Louie was done talking. The event was exactly the same. I say, Susie, the dumbest person I've ever crossed paths with. What happened to her self-esteem was all based on what she said to herself after Louie was done talking. Now, we've got clarity on life is just going to do what life does. Your response to whatever life does, whatever your spouse, your employees, your business partners, your vendors, the list goes on, the government, anybody else, they're just doing what they're doing. Your response to that always changes the outcome. So now, I want to share something really powerful with you. Our power is to ask the what if question. Remember, I shared the helicopter story with you because I wanted you to understand that when the proverbial stuff hit the fan and we were about to crash, both Bill Nurbin and I had put ourselves through the paces many times and I thought in my head, if we have a fire, what am I going to do? If we lose an engine, what am I going to do? I already knew all the things I was going to do without having to think about it, and it just started happening because I had done it in my head over and over. I had asked the what if question. What if this happens? What if that happens? In life, you're going to have your emergencies, but you're going to have interactions and events all day, every day. You can't what if everything in life. But what you can do is you can what if for you. You can what if for you. And so what if whatever might happen, who do you want to be? Very important. Who do you want to be? Do you want to be loving? Do you want to be kind? Do you want to be patient? Do you want to be understanding? Do you want to be forgiving? Do you want to be relaxed? Do you want to be one of those people that takes a step back? Whoever you want to be, decide that today. I do these podcasts because I want you to take away at least one thing. Today, the one thing I want you to think about is, who do you want to be? Because you have the choice and the power to be that. Instead of being the crazy person that honks their horn or freaks out because somebody cuts them off in traffic or yells and screams at your spouse or your kids or your employees, you have the power to choose who you want to be in any moment, regardless of the event. I want to repeat that. You have personal responsibility, as my friend Mike Jones said in a previous podcast. You are personally responsible for your response. responsible. But before the proverbial stuff hits the fan, you want to decide who you want to be. I had thought about all my emergency procedures long before we lost that engine and we're headed into the ground to crash. This is the same thing. Today, decide who do you want to be. Now, once you take the time to decide who you want to be, I'm going to give you the real keys to the castle. And the real keys to the castle is the plus sign. E plus R equals O, the outcome. And so our power is in the plus sign. The space between the event and your response is where your power lies. Right now, I'd like you to pause for a second, and whether you're driving and listening to this or whether you're someplace where you can close your eyes, either way, it doesn't make any difference with your eyes open or your eyes closed. I'd just like you to take a breath in through your nose for a count of 4. And now breathe out through your mouth for a count of 8. You notice in just that one breath, you feel calmer, a little more relaxed. So what I want you to understand and practice is that once you decide who you're going to be, when whatever the event is happens, take that one breath and ask yourself, who do I want to be? And you will have already decided, much like I had already decided all the steps I had to take when we were about to crash. You will have decided. It's very difficult, very, very, very difficult, and I would say almost impossible to be in your logical, analytical mind when you're emotional. Virtually impossible. That breath will calm you down to get you back to a place where you can be analytical, where you can be the problem solver. But in that breath, you want to ask, who did I want to be? And then you get to choose. I'm going to be patient. I'm going to be kind. I'm going to be loving. Leadership and love. I'm going to be love in this moment. What would love do? Love would seek to understand. Love would ask questions. Love wouldn't jump the gun and yell at people. Love might walk away from it to calm down and come back later. But again, you get to choose who you're going to be. But you need to do it before you're in that emotional state where it goes bang, bang. And that's the problem most of us have. The event happens and it instantly triggers something and it goes bang, bang. The kids do something and we start yelling at them. An employee comes in late and we just jump on them. And it goes bang, bang. We don't take the time to take one breath and remember and have done the homework. That's why today I want you to figure out, who do you want to be? All the time. You can be that all the time. Who do you want to be? And then when it goes bang, you breathe and then you choose your response. And remember, your response to that situation, to that event, is always going to change the outcome. Every time. We've been watching in social media, in the news, there's an event, and everybody has this instant, it goes bang, bang. Everybody instantly responds, and they got this outcome. And most of the time, that outcome is a thing called fear. And I want you to know that I really believe at this point in my life, there are only 2 emotions. Love or fear. Everything else is a derivative of one of those 2 emotions. And so fear is when we do those silly things, when we say the things that we regret, when we do the things that we wish we could take back. And we all know that once they're out, once we've said whatever we've said or done whatever we've done, it can't come back. And sometimes people will never forget or forgive. And that's a whole nother topic. But again, if you figure out who you want to be and realize that in any event, any situation, anything that happens in your life, you have the power to take a breath and decide who you want to be. And that will change your response, and that changes the outcome every time. So again, I gave you a pretty easy thing to do today. And there's lots of things you can go look up, like core values and those kinds of things if you need help deciding who you want to be. But I suggest that you consider seriously being love, because love is understanding, love is kind, love is patient, love is fair, love listens, love seeks to understand, love does all the things that are positive. Fear does all the things that are negative. You'll notice that if somebody's greedy, they're fearful that they don't have enough money or somebody else is going to get more than them. If people are jealous, they're fearful that somebody's going to take somebody away from them. So if you think about any negative emotion or negative thoughts, they're all driven by fear. Fear of something drives everything that's a negative emotion. Love is the driving factor behind everything that's positive. And so really, I believe it comes down to those two things, love or fear. And so that's why I started this podcast, because I believe we all can choose love. We can all be love. And that love is the power that changes everything. And it will change who you are as a leader. It will change how you show up in the world. And trust me when I tell you, you won't have to tell people anything. They're going to feel you and they're going to know it. So I hope you got something out of this week's episode of Leadership and Love. And I enjoy these single podcasts. They're just as much fun for me as the interviews. All the interviews really have been very amazing. And if you haven't checked out all of them, please do so, because each one of them has been amazing in the sense that everybody has wisdom to share around all kinds of topics. And everybody I've interviewed is just a living example that everybody's got wisdom. You just need to take the time to ask and listen. So I love you. Thanks for showing up today, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks again for joining us and listening to this episode of Leadership and Love. I would like to challenge you to ask yourself, what's one thing that you heard today that you can implement immediately to improve your leadership and accelerate your growth? If you've gotten value out of this episode or learned something that you can implement today, we'd ask that you please share it with those that you care about. Our goal is to create more leaders who are leading with love.